Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to really unpack something pretty interesting. Um, Mubadala Development Company. Have you heard it?
Oh yeah. Mubadala, it's pretty ambitious stuff they're trying to pull off.
It is. They're trying to transform Abu Dhabi's entire economy.
And they're not just some company focused on the bottom line. They really are, I mean, from what I've seen in the research, focused on building a future. A future for the whole nation.
Which is interesting because, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but Mubadala is basically, it's an arm of the Abu Dhabi government, right?
That's right, yeah. Their task is to diversify the economy. It's all about moving beyond oil, creating something that will last, a sustainable future for the emirate.
Yeah, and, I was looking through some of the research, and it's amazing how much Abu Dhabi has changed in just a few decades. I
Yeah.
mean, talk about a transformation. I mean, from, pretty simple beginnings to a modern metropolis.
Oh, yeah. It's a remarkable change.
I mean, how did they do that?
Well, the discovery of oil back in 1958 certainly played a major role.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it really fueled that growth. And here's the thing, Abu Dhabi actually holds 95% of the UAE's oil reserves.
Yeah.
95%.
Wow.
That's enormous financial power. But, with that comes a challenge.
Yeah, I can see where you're going with this. It's that, what do they call it? The resource curse.
Exactly.
It's that thing where countries, they strike it rich with oil or other resources, but then they struggle to break free from that, to diversify their economies.
You see it time and time again throughout history.
It's a real trap.
Over-reliance on a single resource, and then bam, economic instability, missed opportunities. So the big question is, can Abu Dhabi, can they avoid this? Can they break free from this dependence on oil?
And so that's where Mubadala comes in, right?
Exactly.
I mean, they're investing, but
Yeah.
it's more than just chasing profits. They're trying to build like a whole ecosystem.
Yeah. It's really a two-pronged approach. First, they build these businesses, but they do it with partners, global partners.
Okay.
And we're talking massive projects like Dolphin Energy. You familiar with that?
Refresh my memory.
Huge natural gas pipeline with, all of these international players involved. That's one side of it. And then on the other side, they're making strategic acquisitions. They buy up companies, but it's all very calculated, all to support these regional businesses.
Well, that's what strikes me. I mean, every single investment, every single one has to line up with Abu Dhabi's vision.
Yeah,
It's like every piece has to fit into this giant economic puzzle.
you got it. That's a great way to think about it. They want a diverse economy, and not just that, jobs, especially for, the younger generation, the young Emiratis.
Makes sense.
Profitability is essential, but so is that strategic value. It all has to tie back to the bigger picture.
Okay, so let's dive into the specifics. What sectors are they targeting? Tourism seems to be big on their radar, but they're not following Dubai's playbook.
No, no. Dubai, they're all about those extravagant attractions, bringing in massive crowds of tourists. Abu Dhabi's going for something different. They're aiming for that exclusive high-end experience.
And this is where it gets interesting. They put money into Ferrari to build a theme park. Now, how does that fit? I mean, we're talking about a luxury sports car brand. How does that tie into their strategy?
Right. It might seem a bit out there, but it's all about branding, like a halo effect almost. By partnering with a brand like Ferrari, a prestigious name like that, they attract a certain kind of tourist, the kind who spend big. And it elevates Abu Dhabi's global image. They want to be seen as a luxury destination.
So it's not just about the theme park itself. It's about leveraging Ferrari's reputation.
Precisely. They're using it to stand out, to differentiate themselves from all the other tourist hotspots.
Smart. And it looks like this focus on, this high-end tourism, it kind of bleeds into their strategy in other areas as well, like logistics, for example.
Yeah, logistics is huge for them.
And I see they've made a substantial investment in LeasePlan Corporation. For folks who don't know, they're a global leader in fleet management.
Oh yeah, they're big.
And now they're bringing those services to the UAE. It seems like a smart move, especially with the region's growing logistics market.
Makes sense, right? You need a strong foundation in logistics if you want to become a global trade hub. Mubadala's investing in LeasePlan shows they're serious about this. They're thinking long term.
Okay, so we've got tourism, we've got logistics. What else is up their sleeve?
Well, heavy industry is another area they're pushing hard into, specifically aluminum smelting. They've got those abundant energy resources.
Right.
And they're aiming to use that to become a top global producer of aluminum.
That's a bold move.
Yeah.
But it makes you think about the environmental impact of something like that. Aluminum smelting, it's pretty energy intensive, right?
It is, and that brings up a critical question: sustainability. Can they achieve their economic goals without harming the environment? Can they do it responsibly? It's a question a lot of countries are grappling with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it also makes me wonder about the workforce. Who's going to be working in these industries? Will it be Emirati workers? Or will they continue to rely on foreign labor? There's this whole social and economic balance they have to consider.
Yeah, you've hit on some really important points there. The global aluminum market, it's a tough business.
Yeah.
It's a really competitive landscape. I mean, from what I've seen, the research shows it's dominated by these big players, these established companies, and there are constantly mergers happening and price wars, and it's a real struggle to get those raw materials.
It does sound like a pretty challenging industry to break into,
It is.
even with all the resources that Abu Dhabi has.
Right.
And, as you said, sustainability, that's a huge factor too. And it makes me think about, that potential conflict between maximizing profits on the one hand
Right.
and creating jobs for Emiratis on the other.
Yeah, that's the dilemma, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, they have to make sure these ventures are profitable. I mean, that's the whole point, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, creating those opportunities for local workers, that's essential, for their social and economic goals.
It's a tricky balance.
It is. It's like walking a tightrope.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about tourism and logistics and this big push into heavy industry.
Mm-hmm.
But there was one thing in our research that really surprised me.
Oh, yeah.
Mubadala's move into the U.S. market.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It seems a little out of left field.
It is an interesting twist.
It is.
They invested in the Carlyle Group, which is, a major player in the U.S. private equity scene.
Huge firm.
Oh, yeah, massive.
Yeah.
And it's a strategic move, for sure. It gives them access to all this expertise in key sectors. But, I can see how an investment like this, coming from a sovereign wealth fund, especially one from the Middle East, could raise some eyebrows.
Yeah, definitely.
There's always that sensitivity.
Right, and the research actually points out that Mubadala really went above and beyond to address those concerns.
They did. They engaged with people in Washington, senators, even just to make sure everything was transparent,
Yeah.
to build that trust.
They were very proactive about it.
It sounds like they really did their homework. I mean, they went way beyond what most foreign investors would typically do.
Oh, for sure. And from what I gather, they were very conscious of the scrutiny on foreign investments in the U.S., especially those coming from the Middle East after 9/11.
Yeah.
They didn't want any misunderstandings or backlash.
It's like they were learning from the mistakes of others.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They really recognized how important clear communication is and proactive engagement.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference.
So is this investment in Carlyle just the tip of the iceberg? I mean, could this be the start of a much bigger push by Mubadala into the U.S. market?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
Only time will tell, I guess. But it'll be
Right.
interesting to see how this investment plays out and whether it opens the door for them to expand even further in the U.S.
Yeah. Definitely something to keep an eye on. But, zooming out a bit, what strikes me is how Mubadala is kind of blurring the lines here.
In what way?
Well, they're kind of a hybrid. They're a sovereign wealth fund, but they're also acting like a development agency.
Oh, I see what you mean.
They're not just, passively managing a bunch of assets. They're really rolling up their sleeves and shaping Abu Dhabi's economy.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, they're building industries, creating jobs, driving that economic transformation. It's a pretty unique model,
Yeah.
Other resource-rich nations might want to take notes, as they try to figure out how to diversify.
Yeah, that's a good point. So let's go back to that big question that we posed earlier. Can Abu Dhabi actually break free from the resource curse? I mean, can they create a future that isn't entirely dependent on oil? What's the verdict?
Well, the research doesn't give us a clear-cut answer, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, there are definitely reasons to be optimistic. They've got the money, they're making smart investments, they're playing the long game. But there are also those potential pitfalls. The global economy can be unpredictable. Competition is always fierce, and you never know what curveballs are coming your way.
True.
It's a story that's still unfolding.
It is.
But no matter how it turns out, I think there's some valuable lessons to be learned from how Mubadala is approaching this.
Absolutely. I mean, for other countries with similar goals, trying to achieve what Abu Dhabi is trying to achieve, Mubadala provides a sort of a blueprint,
Yeah, I get
for how to leverage those resources for long-term development. They're showing the importance of strategic planning, diversification, And really investing in people and building that human capital.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
And it also highlights how important transparency is, and proactive engagement, especially when you're investing in sensitive markets like the U.S.
Right. Mubadala's experience shows that building trust and addressing concerns right up front, they can make a huge difference in reducing risk and making sure these ventures are successful.
Yeah, it really does feel like they're kind of rewriting the rules. You know how sovereign wealth funds should operate in the 21st century? It's not just about squeezing out every last drop of profit. It's about using that wealth to build something bigger, something for the future.
And that's what makes Mubadala so fascinating. They're not just, throwing money at companies, they're investing in ideas.
Yeah.
The idea of a diverse economy, the idea of a society built on knowledge,
Yeah.
the idea of a future for Abu Dhabi that doesn't rely solely on oil.
It's a bold vision for sure.
It is.
But, as we've been discussing, there are some big hurdles in their way. The volatile aluminum market, those environmental concerns, the whole challenge of creating opportunities for Emirati workers. It's a tall order.
It is. There's no denying that. So this brings us back to that question we started with. Can Abu Dhabi really break free from that resource curse? Can they build a future that's not dependent on oil? What did our research tell us?
Well, it's not a simple yes or no answer.
Right.
The research doesn't really give us a definitive conclusion. I mean, there are definitely some positive signs. They have the financial resources. They're making strategic investments. They're taking a long-term view. But there are also those risks. The global economy, it's always changing. Competition is fierce. There are always unexpected challenges.
So the story's not over yet.
Not by a long shot.
But no matter what happens in the end, I think there are some valuable lessons here, lessons that other countries can learn from.
Absolutely.
Especially those with similar goals.
Yeah.
Those who are trying to achieve what Abu Dhabi is trying to do. I think Mubadala offers a model, a kind of blueprint for how to use your resources to build a future, how to leverage what you have for long-term development.
Yeah, I completely agree. They're showing the world how important it is to think strategically, to diversify, to really invest in your people, to build up that human capital.
And they're also demonstrating how important it is to be open and transparent. To engage proactively, especially when you're investing in sensitive markets like the U.S.
Exactly. Mubadala's experience is a case study in how to build trust, how to address concerns right from the start, and ultimately how to increase the chances of success.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the key takeaway is Mubadala is a fascinating example of how a nation can use its wealth to chart a new course.
They're pushing the boundaries, they're redefining what sovereign wealth investing can be, and their journey is definitely one worth following.
And for our listeners out there, we hope this deep dive has given you a fresh perspective on Abu Dhabi, on Mubadala, and on the complexities, the challenges, and the opportunities that resource-rich nations are facing in this day and age.
It's a story of ambition, of innovation, and of this pursuit of a sustainable future.
And as you go out there and continue to explore these topics, we encourage you to think about the bigger picture. What does Mubadala's approach mean for the future of global investment? What are the ethical considerations when it comes to using sovereign wealth for economic development?
These are big questions, questions that will shape the global landscape for years to come.
Absolutely. And on that note, we want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful.
Thanks for listening.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.